Now, the first example is really exciting to think about being able to put away money so that it grows, so that you have lots of money. But I'm going to warn you, life usually doesn't work that way. Usually you have things that you're like, oh, I can't put my $500 a month this month because I have to pay for my cell phone bill and this and this and this, and my shoes just fell apart, so I got to buy new shoes, and oh, well, next month I'll put $500 away, and next month it's like, ooh, but my credit card bill got a little bit higher this month than I wanted to, so I can't put $500 away because I have to pay off my debt. More realistically, what happens in life is you have to borrow money. And probably the first thing you're going to buy that you might need to borrow money is a car. So this formula is sort of the opposite. It's the opposite in that you're paying somebody else because they gave you money to buy something, like a bank or a loan from a car dealership. And you have to buy a car because you're like, I got a job, and the job's going to make me money, but I need a car to get to my job. So first of all, I have to spend extra at the beginning. So a person borrows $15,000 to buy a car, and the person can afford to pay $300 a month. Monthly payments, 6% annual interest compounded monthly. How many monthly payments will the person make? So the present value in this formula is the value of the car. You owe $15,000 to the car company or to the car dealership to buy this car. You can afford to pay $300 a month. Interest rate is 6% compounded monthly. So we plug in all of the values again. And again, on the exam, they would give you the formula, and then each thing in the formula would be explained. But it's nice to have seen some of these formulas and practice them beforehand. So first of all, you need to be able to put this into the equation. Then you look and say, I'm solving for n. N is in an exponent. So I have a power. I put that power in the purple box. Can I do algebra to get that purple box by itself? Absolutely. First thing I would do is I would multiply both sides. By 0.06 over 12, because that'll get rid of that part. Go to my calculator. And I get 75. Next, divide both sides by 300. .25. And now that I have divided by 300, those big square brackets aren't necessary anymore. So I just have 1 minus. And again, I'm still going to put the purple box around my power all the way through to remind myself that's what I want to get by itself. Next, I can move this 1 over by subtracting. And this is a place where an easy mistake happens. Now, if I move this 1 over by subtracting, no problem getting negative 0.75. But what we have to remember is if I move that 1 over, this negative is still there. And that negative still being there does not mean my power is all by itself yet. There's still that negative. So to get that power all by itself, I would still have to multiply both sides by negative. And all of this work, again, that we just did, just to get to this point, maybe worth 0 marks, maybe a half a mark. All of that algebra, because it's all considered pre-grade 12, rearranging an equation. Now that we have our power by itself, now I can take the log of both sides, and now I can start getting marks, right? Even if you, this is allowed, right? I brought that exponent out in front all in one step because I knew that log law. Sometimes that step that I wrote right there could give you 2 marks on your test. Because you did 2 log laws. You took the log of both sides, that's worth 1 mark. Then you brought the exponent out in front, which is a log law. Every time you use a log law, you get a mark. As long as you use it properly. If you make up log laws, oh, disaster. Don't make up math rules. Usually doesn't end well. So, we've got our n out in front. Now I can get n by itself. It's going to be log of 0.75. I want to get this n by itself, so what do I have to divide by? I need to divide by the negative and the log of 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12. And I'll go to my calculator. Log of 0.75 divided by negative log 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12. 57.680. So notice we're not very far away from our exam. Notice that every time I write my answer at first, I write 3 decimal places, just to make sure, because rounding, you have to go to at least 3 decimal places. Question?
Well, I think I must have missed a step. How did you get to positive 0.75 on the left side?
So I just moved the 1 over, get negative 0.75. So that would be like this, subtract 1, subtract 1. Then I'm left with a negative still out in front. So then I multiplied both sides by a negative to make it positive 0.75. It's the same thing. Multiply by -1 or divide by -1 will get rid of that negative.
What was the answer?
The answer was 57.608. So they'll have to make 57 full payments and 1 partial payment. To pay for this vehicle. Now this is where the calculator, again, can come in really handy for you. And I can start showing you a couple of things where you can save yourself some money. So TVN solver, okay, again, we're going to solve for n. So whatever you're solving for, you can leave whatever number is in there, or maybe some people like to just change it to a 0 to say I haven't figured that out yet. My interest rate was 6%. Now, because you are getting a car, someone's giving you something. Anytime someone's giving you something that's positive, you can't actually put the car in your pocket, but you get the car. The car company is saying, we are giving you $15,000 in the form of a car. That'll be a positive number because you're getting it. We're making payments of $300 a month. In the future, though, you don't want to owe them any more money. So now the future value, because it's a loan, as you're paying it off, it's going to get smaller and smaller. You want that to get down to 0. We're still making 12 payments per year, still compounded 12 times per year. So now I can go up and hit alpha to get to the solve button and solve and get the same number, 57.6080. Did I write it down wrong when I wrote it here? Oh, I did. 57.680. Well, that zero at the end looks pretty bad. The other nice thing about this program is once you have solved and got your values in here, you can actually do math in this program. So for example, what I might do is I might take this 57.68, that's how many payments I need to make. Each payment is $300. So one thing you might want to know when you buy something is how much does it actually cost me? You're buying a $15,000 car, but it's not going to cost you $15,000. You're paying extra for it because you don't have the money. Times by 300, you're paying an extra $2,300 for your car. The number one thing that will save you money throughout your life is if you take a little bit extra time when you're at the car dealership and negotiate. Or you go somewhere else and say, I'm buying a car. The car company offered me 6% interest. Can you offer me the same amount at a better rate? And if someone says, oh, we'll give you 5%. Well, now instead of 251 payments, oops. No, I did something wrong here. 15,000. Yeah, no, 50, instead of 57 payments, now you're paying 56 payments. Times that by 300. And instead of 17,000, we're at 16,000. So asking someone for that extra percentage could save you $1,000. Right? How much do you make if you work in a whole day? How long, like, if someone said, I'll give you a job for a day, you'll make $1,000, would you do that job? 8 hours? So, if you spent 8 hours looking for a better interest rate, that's not wasting your time. You're paying yourself $1,000 for those 8 hours. That's a lot of money. Now, when we do a house, which we're going to do next, we're going to really see how much this makes a difference. Because a car is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. The biggest thing you're going to probably spend money on in your life, for most people, is their house. And for most people, when you go to buy a house, it's not like you get there and they're like, yeah, so how much is this house? Well, this house is $450,000. Just let me check my wallet. Oh, I'm short, right? I don't quite have enough today to buy this house. Nobody usually can pull out their wallet and say, oh, I just happen to have a $500,000 bill in my wallet today, and I think I'll buy this house. That doesn't happen. But we're going to see that if 8 hours saves you $1,000 on your car, how much money can you save on a house? And this is where I would say, if you know how this works, compared to the average person that doesn't, you can easily save yourself. I would say personally, I've probably saved somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 compared to the average person, just knowing how interest rates work and taking some extra time and doing some research and finding a better interest rate. So let's see how much of a difference this can make. We don't know how, well, most of the time when you start a mortgage, mortgages are paid over 25 years. It takes a long time. So 25 times monthly payments of 12, you pay $300, 300 times you make mortgage payments. 5% is about what interest rates are right now for a house, so we'll keep it at 5%. And the bank is giving you a house. So let's say you're buying a $450,000 house, you first would have to save up probably around $50,000 to put as a down payment, maybe even more. But let's say at the end, you still owe the bank $400,000. They're giving you the house, so you would put this number in as a positive number. In the future, you want it to be zero. There's a rule in Canada that the bank can only charge you interest twice per year instead of 12 times per year. It's a tiny advantage, but remember when we saw the continuous compound? The compounding periods make a little bit of a difference, but not a huge difference. Again, where you're going to save money in your life is with this interest rate and knowing how the interest rate works. So if you're about to buy this house, then this calculator would say, you want to buy this house, we can solve for the payments. How much are your payments going to be a month? Can you afford $2,300 a month? Because if you can afford $2,300 a month, you can buy that $400,000 house. So first of all, you're going to have to get a job that's paying you enough. And then most of your money that you make from your job all goes back to pay your house. And you're still paying for your car. And, you know, later on you have kids and your kids are like, you have a good job, why can't we get better food? You're like, we're spending all of our money to pay for the house and to pay for other things. So how much does this house cost you? You're buying it, $400,000. How much does that $400,000 cost you? I can times that by 300 times you're going to have to make that payment. This is where house buying is scary. You will have, at the end of buying that house, paid almost $700,000. An extra $300,000 goes to the bank. So now that's same. So let's start writing these numbers down and see. We'll just round them. At a starting point of 5% interest, right? You're paying $397,000. So before you start, you say, I'm going to take 8 hours and research and look and talk and find around and see if I can get the best interest rate possible. And if you do happen to get 4%, how much of a difference does that make? Well, now, alpha solve. Now your payments are only $2,100 a month, so a little bit cheaper. And when we go $631,000. That's $66,000 you paid yourself in that 8 hours. Is there anybody here who wouldn't take a job for 8 hours? Would you? I would do some pretty nasty jobs for $66,000 for 8 hours. I'd be like, we need someone to scrape the toilets with their fingernails, and be like, for 8 hours, I'd be like, yes, for $66. Eventually that smell will go away. It will be worth it, right? That's a lot of money. If you can get that interest rate down just 1%. And sometimes the people that are working in the companies, right? The number 1 seems small. A half. Usually it's hard to get a whole 1% off. But it's not hard to get a 0.5%, or even like, oh, could you do 0.25%? Like even if you took off a 0.25%, that'd be like $10,000, $20,000. That's huge. Okay? Next thing that you could do, okay? So we got it down to 60. Let's say first of all, you did extra work and you got it down to 4%. Another thing you can do is instead of paying your mortgage off monthly, you decide that you get paid every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, you want to put money against your mortgage. So now, instead of paying 12 times a year, we're going to make 26 payments a year. And we're still going to do it over 25 years. So now you're going to make 650 payments over the lifetime of this mortgage. But your payments are going to be smaller because they were what, around 2,100? So now our payments are 970. But by paying every 2 weeks instead of paying every month, that means you're paying off things just a little bit quicker. Doesn't seem like a lot. Didn't seem like we changed very much. But now if I take this and multiply by 650, so it's just a small change. I decided to pay every 2 weeks instead of instead of every month. I knocked off an extra $1,000. Again, little things can be significant. And the other thing that can really, really save you money, if you want to, is most of the time you get your house, you're going to buy a house that you can barely afford, you're going to be in your job, but as you're in a job, the longer you're in a job, your wages go up. For me as a teacher, the first 10 years that you're a teacher, you automatically get a raise every year. Lots of jobs, every year that you're in it longer, you get a raise. They want to keep you in the job because you have more experience and you're better at your job than when you started, so you start making more money. Now you have a choice. When you make more money, some people go, woohoo, I made more money. I'm buying new shoes every month. Or you can spend that money extra that you made because now that you're making more money. Or you can decide, I want to take that little extra bit of money and put it against my house. So instead of having to pay 1,000 or 970 every 2 weeks, let's just put it, let's say now we can afford 1,200. Well, what's that going to do? That's going to make you have to pay less time. So we were having to pay 650 payments. That's 25 years. Now, we can do it in 465 payments. That's taking off a number of years. And if we see how much this house is costing us now that we decided just to put a little bit extra away, we've now knocked that down to $560,000. So originally, we were paying $700,000. A couple of little changes knocked that $700,000 down to $560,000. That's $140,000 you've saved. And because you saved this on this one, someone says, would you like to scrape the toilets with your fingernails? You're like, you know what? I've already saved myself the money somewhere else. Even though that's a pretty nice amount of money that you'd like to pay me. Maybe I'll pass this time. So there are, especially with buying your house, ways that you can save yourself a ton of money. Number one is knowing how compound interest works and getting that, first of all, getting that interest rate as low as possible. Secondly, realizing that if you do make some more money, putting that more money against your house can save you a ton early on. Look, all of a sudden, you're paid it off 5 years earlier. And now you have those, at those 5 years, you're going to be like, oh, now we no longer have to pay $1,000 every 2 weeks. That's going to be nice. Okay, so this is 2 important formulas that could come up on the exam.